My lips are longing for the ways that yours tell me hello. That shit's so tough. What's up, guys? I'm Aditya Data, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Discovery of India by Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, I'm reading this book because of what is called Indian American guilt. I've immigrated to this country, and yet I know nothing about my heritage. So I'm reading this book. My grandma actually gifted it to me 2 years ago, so shout out to you. The author is Jawaharlal Nehru. He was the first Prime Minister of India, but he did not know that at the time of writing this book. It is about him trying to find the nationalist motivations behind India and explaining to the reader why India should really be its own country and why Gandhi is this shit. So, this book is divided among 600 pages. 600 pages. That is a lot of pages. The only reason you should read all 600 pages is if either you have a low number of friends or you have a lot of free time. Now, fortunately, I have both, so I read every page. First 60 pages describes Nehru's whole vibe, why he's writing this book, why he's even in prison in the first place, because that's where he wrote the book, in prison. He wrote it in 5 months, which is pretty impressive considering it's 600 pages. Cannot stress that point enough. He describes his life philosophy. It's really a cool read. I recommend reading all 600 pages of that. The last 10 pages you could probably do without, though. Now, the next 240 pages describes the history of India, right? You can't discover India without knowing what Indian history looks like. So he goes through from Mohenjo-daro all the way up to the Mughals period, right? The Mughals are like the Muslims that came in around 300 years before the British. So he describes all that stuff. You get an idea of what Indian religious philosophy is like, what the foundation of Indian thought is, how despite Buddhism coming, Muslims coming, Turks coming, and a ton of other people coming, India still maintained its Hindu kind of vibe and its philosophical thought stayed constant. So once you read those first 240 pages, then you move into the last 300 pages, and this is where it gets nationalist. Nehru really goes hardcore into the British history, okay? The first 240 pages describes 10,000 years. The last 300 describes really 100 years. So it's really jam-packed, and it's a lot of deep, intricate political stuff, and honestly, you can do without most of it. He spends 100 pages describing Muslims. He describes 50 pages describing Bengalis. And he describes all of those pages somehow interpolating Gandhi and how godlike Gandhi is. So you really benefit from like a few chapters here. In fact, throughout the entire book, it's divided into chapters and subheadings. There are 100 subheadings. You really need to read just 20 of them, especially so in the last 300 pages. From these last 300 pages, you really learn what kind of dickheads the British Empire was. They weren't good. In fact, they were pimping out India. Like, think about what the word pimping is and the practice of pimping. They were doing that for India around this colonial period. And you realize that that isn't good, and it really clarifies the justification for why India should be a free nation. The British were exploiting raw materials. They were directly causing the deaths of probably 100 million people, but we don't recognize that. In America, they don't talk about that. There's no Schindler's List for those Indians. So take that as you will. After reading this book, I realized that India should be a free nation. It should be a free, democratic nation. But wait, it already is. So why should you read this book? I don't know. Context, I guess. You get a lot of context. Overall, I would give this book a solid 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching.